had said you considered supporting Ron DeSantis in the Iowa caucuses, or Trump, excuse me, Trump, but his actions over the weekend, not showing up, saying that there was a tornado threat, changed your mind. Why?
Actually, it was the other way around. It was satire. That I was considering supporting Ron DeSantis, but he just put all these Iowans in mortal danger from the weather. I mean, here's the reality. If you're going to do anything in Iowa and you're going to constantly cancel whenever there's a tornado watch, you're just not going to do a lot between the months of May and October. I mean, the FAA said, let me try that again. The FAA said there wasn't a single delay at the Des Moines International Airport because of these considerations during the day. The Iowa Cubs played their game that night. So, I mean, I understand landing a plane. You could have delays. I also, want to give the former president some benefit of the doubt. He would have a lot of people coming from surrounding states. That would we just don't have the population base for one of his 20, 30,000 person rallies here in Iowa. So he could have a lot of people coming from surrounding states like Missouri, Illinois, et cetera, who then don't want to brave the storms and drive. And that would lead to diminished crowds, which, of course, if you know anything about Trump, he likes to brag about his crowds. The first argument he had his whole presidency was about the crowd size at his inaugural. All right. So it's more than likely that is the reason that this was canceled. But more importantly, I thought, was the way that DeSantis played it. He comes into Iowa, I think, with more hype. I've been involved in this very heavily for 15 years on a presidential level. I've never seen a candidate with more built-in hype than Ron DeSantis. Remember, Trump got in the race early, was talking about China trade, wasn't gaining a lot of traction. It really wasn't until June when he got into the immigration issue that his campaign really took off. So the expectations for DeSantis are high. He has to meet them. Otherwise, he's going to disappoint people the way Scott Walker did when he came here with very high expectations in the spring of summer of 2015 after conquering Wisconsin. And from everybody I talked to, it was a resounding success what they saw. And the instincts of his campaign to at the last minute schedule a stop right by where Trump was supposed to speak. And to do this impromptu, you don't know if 20, 30 people are going to show up. This is not a very Republican part of town at all. And to see the kind of crowd that he was able to draw there, that level of organization and organically, a very impressive debut for Ron DeSantis. And then I think Donald Trump followed it up this morning with his comments on the life issue that will not be very popular in a state like Iowa.
All right, you said a lot there. So let's talk real quickly about the poll numbers, because in the race, officially or not, Ron DeSantis is way behind in a lot of the polling. Has the train left the station? I mean, 2024 is a long way away, but I mean, in this day and age where we're always campaigning, someone's always racing for something, could this come back and bite him by waiting this long to announce?
I don't think so at all. I've been involved heavily in 2 Iowa caucus campaigns, Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz. When I signed on, they were at 2%, and it was later in the year than this. And by the time that campaign was over, they ended up in both cases getting more votes than any Iowa caucus campaign ever has. I've won as many Iowa caucuses as Donald Trump has. So it's not too late at all. If I'm Ron DeSantis, I'm thinking, looking at your numbers, wait a minute, this is the second time I've ever visited your state. You have 30 counties that voted for Obama once or twice and then turned around and voted for Trump. And I'm starting at 26% without doing anything to organize your state at all. Now, I think that's why you have seen Trump attempt to preemptively derail DeSantis so much. I think it is a fear that DeSantis is a kind of a political fullback, if you use a football analogy here. If he can break through the initial point of attack and gets rolling downhill with momentum, he'll be tougher to stop. So I think you're seeing Team Trump, they're trying to essentially proverbially kill him now before he gets that kind of momentum potentially.
I don't know, looking at the field, I mean, everybody's kind of trailing in the same area. Trump's way out ahead in almost all polls. Is there anyone else on the GOP side that you think could give Donald Trump a run for his money and be a legitimate challenge?
No, this is only a 2-person race. There's only 2 candidates that come close to speaking where the heart of and the soul of the majority of the GOP base is right now, and it's Trump, and who is arguably the most successful Republican president since Reagan pre-COVID, and it's DeSantis, who's arguably the most successful Republican governor we've ever seen. It's those 2 guys are colossus, and they're going to battle it out like titans in a steel cage. And frankly, I'm excited to watch it. May the best man win.
Have you made your decision yet, or will you wait?
I think two things, and I'm always very honest with my audience. Number one, I think the country generationally needs change badly. I think it's a terrible idea to have 80-year-old people running for president. I don't care who they are, what they believe. I just think it's bad. Secondly, based on what he did in Florida, DeSantis would have to lose my support. But I would have said that at this point about Scott Walker, too, in the spring of 2015. And then he went out there and face planted. So I'm not ready to make a formal endorsement yet. But if he continues on what we saw over the weekend and what he's already done in Florida, I think it's likely I would end up supporting Ron DeSantis.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.